Welcome, everybody, for the next tour of one of our Winnipeg buildings, 504 Main Street, the Union Bank Tower, run by the Royal Bank of Canada. It was built in 1903, or the building project started in 1902, but ground was set early spring of 1903. The first steel structure ever built in Canada at its time. They were building a Chicago school building. I don't know if that means anything to you, but it's kind of this art gothic bottom half monstrosity of a brick building on top. There's a love and hate relationship with this building in Winnipeg. It also stayed derelict for years until a school came along and bought the building and remodeled it amazingly really well. Most of the buildings before this, or even after this, were not built out of steel structure. They had wooden beams used on it. And don't get me wrong, they are still holding up nice and strong. It's just, they're a little wonky and crooked. They're mostly used for factories. A lot of these buildings were burnt down. Some still remain in the city of Winnipeg, but more or less, people were happy to see this big first high rise building being built in Winnipeg. Take note that a lot of workers put a lot of effort on building this building with hot rivets. So this is a rivet building attachment. There was no welders back then. They used to rivet everything together and hammer everything with air drills. The building has a beautiful top with a beautiful design with little windows on top. It just makes the building what it is. Is the building kind of odd in shape? Yes, but that is the whole French American colonial design what's going on here and they're playing with. The bottom half is the bank and separated by a different stone by brick is pretty much a different building, but it's the same building attached. The bank, beautifully made in this pink dark marble from Afghanistan, was also used on the Crimean war memorial placed in front of City Hall in Winnipeg. Some of that stone was still left over to make another couple of building projects in Winnipeg. The bank ran the Royal Bank. Next to the Royal Bank in the same building or hall was the traffic, and the traffic was the tobacco and newspaper and odds and ends like razor blades or stuff you needed for the office. Stationery, not much, just something for the office workers. Well, that disappeared pretty quickly, and in 1986, 87, the building sort of fell out of disrepair. The last tenants left. It was going downhill. Now the school has restored it and put it back into its place. This building was filled with lawyers and had, accountants and very small offices. They weren't really, fancy lawyers. It wasn't really, it was kind of second class in the 80s. Kind of low budget everything, right? You know where I'm getting at. But the building got a new owner, and this was a school. And they sort of made it a culinary college cooking school that I'm kind of proud that we have that in our city of Winnipeg to actually show people how to cook and run a restaurant and learn other skills. And it just shows that this building can still be used. And I love this building. I've always have. And you put something back that it almost disappeared. It almost got torn down. It almost burnt twice. And the building was saved. Thank God for that. Another great appeal about this building when it was opened, it had elevators. And the elevators in the building were a little bit different than today's elevators. You press a button and you go to that floor. It wasn't like that. The elevators had pretty much an elevator jockey, and this elevator jockey would drive the elevator. He would open the doors, close the doors, next floor, and he would so on and so on. Um, it was kind of a strange job to go up and down every day in an elevator, but you drove the elevator up and down and opened the doors. I used to love this elevator when I was a kid. I remember going up and down in this elevator. I was just fascinated by this. I don't know if it's in this building anymore. I think they took it out. That's the sad part. I wish they would have kept it in. I don't know. I haven't been into the building. We have an epidemic on. I've been trying to go set up tours. Not seem to be working. But this building here had offices very tiny. The office space was super tiny. I think 16 by 9, and then there was like 10 by 7 with a closet, and so on and so on. Well, that all had to be gutted out. I think some of the offices had 4 windows, some of them had 8 windows. So it was different for every floor and different for every stage and person who was renting the building. Well, several years ago, it almost burnt down to the ground. There was this abandoned hotel in the background, like a watering hole. Well, someone set fire to it, and I'm guessing to collect the insurance because that building wasn't selling. In 1979, in the front, the side buildings to this building burnt down. This is why they remain empty to this day. And they put a farmer's market there at one point in the early 80s to bring more people downtown because it was next to City Hall and they want to revive downtown. It's always been this revival, to make money, always bring people downtown. Feed the parking, feed the parking. Well, here's the building from the outside. This is accomplished and finished, and the work is amazing. They did a really good job. Um, they put the new building on the side, and it sort of blends in. I'm not complaining. At least it's being used. Okay? At least it's being used. I'm kind of happy. But like I said, it's one of those things in our city that it remembers the old city hall, and we can't tear down our whole cities with these old buildings. We need to really put them in together. And if it was my styling, I would have built a tower building right next to it to blend it into like a skyscraper, and it would really look really neat. And that's what one of my ideas I wrote in to do with it, but it became a school. That's what is cool about it, that it did become something, and it's being used. I'm happy about that. And I know we have this epidemic going on, and the problem is these restaurants are not halfway open. Do you know what I mean? They're not physically open, but they give people jobs and they give a sense of community and a skill of cooking to people. And I'm kind of happy about something like this happening in Winnipeg because we're that type of community that we don't care anymore. And we throw things away that we should not throw away. And that is a struggle because there's many, many buildings in Winnipeg that no longer exist, like this hotel. Don't get me wrong, they could have burnt it down to the ground, but you have to get the idea. This was, how would you say, a nice hotel for its time. Of course, there are other buildings in Winnipeg that do exist, just like your hometown in your city. And this building still exists, and I hope to God stuff stays around and stays, and we don't throw these things away. It took years to build these buildings because the skill level. And there's beautiful details that people just don't do anymore. Okay, these took quite a while to do, and they're decals that no one does. For instance, the YWCM or the YMCA, and there's the YWCA, whatever, or it's still for the women one. This is built in Winnipeg. Is it still there? Well, it's still there in the late 30s. Is it still there today? Should be your answer. It doesn't matter who's in it anymore, as long as the building's going and the building is still there. I'm happy to see this building still up. It's nice to see this building still up. Of course, the building has changed and outside many times, but part of the building's there. They changed the face of the building. They changed this. They changed that. But it's progress to keep these old buildings alive in our cities. Well, thank you, people. Have a happy new year.
Make sure to thumbs up and subscribe. Leave a comment. And I know there's a lot more to learn about Winnipeg history. So stay tuned for the next videos. I should have some more coming out shortly. Have a good day and good night wherever you are.